This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad. Oh, this is the day that the Lord has made. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
A reading from the book of Kings. When Solomon old, his wives turned his heart to the strange gods, and his heart was not entirely with the Lord his God, as his heart of his father David had been. By adorning Ashtoreth and the goddess of the Syrophoenicians and Malcolm, the idol of Amorites, Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not follow him unreservedly as his father David had done. Solomon then built a high place to Chemosh and the idol of Moloch, and to the Moloch, the idol of the Amorites, on the hill opposite Jerusalem. He did the same for all his foreign wives, who burned incense and sacrificed to their gods. The Lord therefore became angry with Solomon, because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, for through the Lord had forbidden him this very act of following strange gods. Solomon had not obeyed him. So the Lord said to Solomon, "Since this is what you want, and you have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I enjoined on you, I will deprive you of the kingdom and give it to your servant. I will not do this during your lifetime, however, for the sake of your father David. It is your son whom I will deprive, nor will I take away the whole kingdom. I will leave your son one tribe for the sake of my servant David and of Jerusalem, which I have chosen." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Remember us, Lord. Remember us, O Lord, as you favor your people.
Remember us, O Lord, as you favor your people.
Blessed are they who observe what is right, who do always what is just. Remember us, O Lord, as you favor your people. Visit us with your saving help.
Remember us, O Lord, as you favor your people.
But they mingled with the nations and learned their works. They served their idols, which became a snare to them.
Remember us, O Lord, as you favor your people.
They sacrificed their sons and their daughters to demons, and the Lord grew angry with his people and abhorred his inheritance.
Remember us, O Lord, as you favor your people.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Humbly welcome the word that has been planted in you and is able to save your souls. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus went to the district of Tyre. He entered a house and wanted no one to know about it, but he could not escape notice. Soon a woman whose daughter had an unclean spirit heard about him. She came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by birth, and she begged him to drive out the demon of her daughter. He said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She replied and said to him, "Lord, even the dogs under the table eat the children's scraps." Then he said to her, "For saying this, you may go. The demon has gone out of your daughter." When the woman went home, she found the child lying in bed and the demon gone. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Good morning.
Father.
Today as we gathered, we heard the story of the healing of the daughter of the Syrophoenician widow. And what strikes me is in Luke, it's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, all three accounts. But the most gentle telling comes from the one we heard today, Mark. Now, because it's in all three of the Gospels, it sounds very much the same whenever you're reading it. But in the other two Gospels, it's much more harsh. In Matthew and Luke, when the woman approaches Jesus, he actually dismisses her. And she continues to cry out, and he just keeps walking on. And she keeps crying out. And then the disciples get involved, and they tell him to get rid of her. And he keeps walking on. And she keeps following and crying out. Finally, she blocks his path, and he stops. And then he insults her, as he does today. And then he heals her daughter. Now, in Mark's account, Jesus is not as harsh. He's simply in a house, and she learns about it. And she goes to the house and makes her request. And Jesus is sharp in his response. It's not right to take the food of children and throw it to the dogs. And as in the other two accounts, the woman absorbs the insult and says, "But even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table." And with that, Jesus heals her. Now, quite frankly, I prefer the Markan account because Jesus is a lot more friendly than in the other accounts. But what is so outstanding is the woman had great confidence in her own dignity and worth, and that of her daughter. And because she did not surrender that dignity and worth, she was able to persevere. You know, in the other two accounts, she not only persevered, but she had grit. In the Markan account, she perseveres. She doesn't surrender who she is. And think, if you will, for a moment, of what our world might be like if each one of us really understood our dignity and worth. If we did, when you insulted me, which you would never do, I know, but if you did, I would be able to absorb that. It wouldn't disorient me. And the seeming insult of Jesus to the woman did not disorient her because she knew who she was. This might be just a day to look at that gospel and think not of healing, but ask yourself, how solid are you in laying claim to who you are, God's beloved daughter and son? The woman laid claim to that for herself, her daughter, and it made all the difference in the world.